Hello and good evening. We're back.
We're back. We are.
Nice to see you.
You as well.
A lot's gone on since then.
Since we last were
We're
together.
here. Yeah. Man, isn't it amazing how life works like that? Right? All of a sudden we're back in the studio and it's like, this feels really nice. Lovely to see you.
You as well.
Thanks.
You as well. That is how life works. And we probably figured that out a long time ago. Every day, something's happening.
Something happens. Something goes on. It's always a little bit of redirection.
Well, it is. It's good to see you back. And, with this particular show, I wanted to do two things. I wanted to really barrel down into the name of the show, The Way Hum, and talk about what it is that we're doing here. And then the other thing I wanted to do was talk about what we do outside of here when we're together. So
awesome.
The Way Hum for me is all about how we are attempting to find our way, right? Through this thing called life that we've kind of sort of figured out that at least that things go on every day, right? But we're looking for exactly that, like realization, actualization. We're actually trying to find the way to transformation, right? Like, so we're looking for something, or we're talking to people who are definitely looking for something.
Mainly, yeah. And I think in relation to that, right, what we talk about is stuff that we hope will resonate with other people, that will open up a door for them. You know what I mean? It's like we want people and we want to help them basically open up and see however they're going to open up and however they're going to see, because everyone sees differently. Everyone opens up differently, right?
Right.
The Way Hum is that way for that person.
Perfect.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that it's yeah.
It's many paths. And your path may not be the same path that I'm taking.
Which is one of the most beautiful things in the whole wide world, is that it is not the same path, and that it is the greatest discovery for each to discover their path.
That is definitely something. Right? And we want to talk about those different paths.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to do here more than anything, is talk about those different paths, getting you where it is that you're going, right? And so one of the things that I have done, one of my areas of interest has been trance, and it's been the mind. And so probably for a very long time, I'd say I'm definitely on that middle way kind of idea. Lots of people talk about the middle way, but I'm the middle way in that I've had lots of mystical experiences. I've always been open to metaphysical phenomena, but I've always wanted to know why. And so science and metaphysics for me is just perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time having the experiences and then trying to run and find out exactly what was that? Why did I have that? So almost like those scientists who want to look into the brain for every mystical experience you have and find some place that's actually happening. Like your near-death experience isn't really a near-death experience. It's something that's firing off in your brain. Except I've never gone that far into the science world because I'm not a scientist, first of all. And secondly, I have experienced things that I know are real.
Totally.
And because I've put a lot of time into it, I've gone and found other people who've had those experiences. So it's like, okay, I went and found evidence, but at least there's evidence.
And that in itself is scientific. I mean, you were doing research, right? Like, I mean, part of, one of the neatest things about our lives today is that every day is a new day. Not everyone can say that, right?
Like a new experience.
Totally.
Right.
Like, typically, when we open up our eyes for the morning, man, it's a new day.
It is
right?
a new opportunity.
And it's like, what is this day going to bring? What kind of magic is this day going to bring? Right? Now, life has not always been that way. And that's one of the reasons why we talk about what we talk about and do what it is that we do, because it can go towards that which it once was in the very beginning.
What do you mean by that?
A beautiful wonder. Like you can still be an adult and be in a beautiful wonder, right? Does that mean that you're not taking life too seriously? Not necessarily. You can be serious, but not uptight.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And so how do we stay there? How do we get there? I mean, that's kind of, that's the direction, because you and I, we've touched something, or perhaps something has touched us, right? And there's words for that, like grace.
Right.
Let's say, right? And I mean, one of the things we love to do is show people the grace in them.
Right.
Right?
For sure.
And in doing so, perhaps maybe do we start them or help them see the way hum, their way hum?
So, I was just talking about this the other day, and it's because there's so much out there right now on psychedelics, right? Like, so everybody's talking about psychedelics, and in this field that I play in, there was a lot of folks talking about like who gets to be guides and why they should be guides, or who people should look out for in terms of them, labeling themselves guides, because everybody wants to be a psychedelic guide. And one of the things I said is that it's fine, really. I mean, it's absolutely fine, because no one is here to save you. We're not here to save anybody. We're not here doing anything except pointing the way. And with us, we're just giving you some information.
And sharing. We share.
We're going to share our experiences. We're going to give you information. And hopefully it touches you and that it opens up something for you.
Yeah. We're encouraging direction.
Exactly. And
you know
we're giving
what I mean?
you a lot of stuff.
And here's some facts to encourage one's direction.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Or
here's some experience.
Some experiences. And there may be experiences that you will never have.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I'll ever have a near-death experience. And I'm perfectly fine not having
I don't feel it's necessary. You know what I mean?
So we're not telling you that we've had these experiences, and unless you have these experiences, then you can't really walk the path that we've walked. That's not true. What I think about a near-death experience, which I never want to have and have never had, is that I've had some experiences. When you tell me about your near-death experience, I've had experiences that have felt like the things that happen inside of your near-death experience. I had them while dreaming, mostly dreaming. But in other words, that we're all having these experiences. We don't necessarily have to have them in the same way.
Totally.
We're touching that veil. Sometimes we're opening that veil. And we can do it in many different ways.
Many different ways. I loved what you were saying, because I do not feel that trauma is necessary to touch it.
Right.
I don't feel that suffering is necessary to touch it.
Yeah.
Right? I don't feel that walking through hardships or, like, almost wanted to curse there for a second.
I don't know that that's out. I don't think we're broadcasting, so it's fine.
It's like, I just don't feel, one does not have to level or gauge an intensity of trauma or suffering or anything in order to touch it.
Right.
Right? Because it is available. We'll call it it. It is available to everyone.
It being
all
the veil,
time.
or what's on the other side of the veil.
Yeah, the veil, the energy, that which moves that doesn't come from thinking.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's out there that doesn't come from thinking. That which puts you in a state of wonder and curiosity and bliss.
Yeah.
Straight up nirvana when you know that you're in the center of it. It's like you're the little leaf floating down the river, and it's the best ride ever in the whole wide world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That stuff. That is it. But you can't really describe it. There's no real good name for it. I mean, it's like a word that's used when there's no word for it.
And that's interesting that you say, like, not being able to describe it, like the ineffable, which is, this word that's kind of winding its way through our lexicon because of psychedelics. Like, this is something that we're talking about, the experiences that we have when we're utilizing psychedelics, that we really can't describe it. Like, it's very difficult to describe. But
and sometimes if you do attempt to describe it to someone who has never done that, it's hard for them to capture what you're trying to describe.
Yeah.
And it's almost, perhaps impossible unless they've done it or done something close to it. Because once you touch and once you go over into that realm, like when the psychedelics, and I love talking about psychedelics, right? And so like, when they start to turn up, like an amplifier.
Yeah.
Slowly in you, you can feel it.
Right.
Run through your whole body. And then you also know when it is at its peak and you're flowing with it. And that's when it and you are one.
And that, and even the way that you describe it, Happy, may or may not develop for another person in that way. Like you,
absolutely
even
not.
The way that you feel it coming together, right? And I say this a lot for people because in case people come in to our retreats, which we run. We do psychedelic retreats, psilocybin in particular. But if they come and they're expecting, sometimes people have heard from other people, and then they have this expectation about what it is that they're going to experience
or get from it.
Exactly.
Right? It's like when people come, their mind must be free and their mind must be open. And it's best what we talk about is our experience with it.
Right.
And what we also encourage is other people having their own individual experience. Sure, what they hear from us may sound inviting, hopefully, right? And curious and wondering and stuff like that. But the bottom line is it affects each person differently. Each person must have their own individual experience because at that point it becomes intimate. At that point, it's actually theirs.
For sure.
Right? And that is absolutely beautiful. So when they open up their eyes to see inside themselves, right? Because with any luck, that may happen. I remember we were doing a show before when we were talking about like, we're not suggesting anything or, because we want people to have their own experience. But man, when you do, it tends to be very common with other people. No different than a near-death out-of-body experience. You have a similar commonality with what occurs.
Right.
You see.
Right.
Because the psilocybin helps one be free to look.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm going to tell you what I think that the psilocybin does.
I think it does a whole lot.
I think it does a whole lot.
There's not enough time in the show for that.
Well, there's all these scientific theories about what's actually happening in the brain, of course, because science is physical. So they're looking at your physical brain. I go outside of that. I'm a mind person.
Yeah.
And so I think what's happening with near-death experience in your dreams, in these states of trance, I believe that you are that's the doorway to the superconscious. Superconscious being the highway that we're all traveling on, like when we're all becoming one, right? And so I think that that's what's happening. And out on that highway, there is a different understanding, and there's a different look. There is a different perspective of what it is that we are experiencing on a moment-to-moment basis. And so you're kind of behind the camera instead of in front of it.
Sorry.
You know? That's just my take on it. But there is a reason that you want to get to that place, and not everyone does. And you said that. You said if you are fortunate enough to experience it, because everybody has different experiences. You may not have hallucinations. You may not see beautiful geometry. You may not have those things, and there may not be a big bang for you. And we're hoping that there is, but may not be your time. And that's what I think as well. That time
may not. That time, whatever occurs in that time is what will occur that time. I mean, many times I have intentionally sought to go big.
Go big.
Right? And I went big and it was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and then other times it's like I love it to be like a tool. You know, it's a tool.
It is a
it's
tool.
a tool for one's mind. Yeah. Right? And the beauty of it today is it's more accepted. You know,
thank goodness.
Thank goodness, right? Because I've spent most of my life wondering why others weren't able to see.
Yeah.
Or feel.
Right.
Or
why you were over there on a different your dial. You were way over there on the radio dial.
Yeah. Like what, you know, because I really feel that, you know, it is radically beneficial if one discards all the influence that they've had about it and just seek within themselves, right?
Perfect.
I want, you know, because whoever comes to us, we want them to be wholeheartedly on their own inviting this into their life.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Not influenced by a family member or you know, but I certainly feel that being influenced by the scientific community is a very positive thing. And I think, you know, I love that is being influenced in that manner, you know.
In other words, the doors are opening because of all this research that
the science world has it's done. Like, you know, because it's like for people that are suffering with whatever it is they're suffering with as a result of whatever, they have more options that are that are not as conventional. They're a little outside the box, and outside the box is essentially what people feel that they need to see. Only I feel you don't have to, you know, go through physical trauma.
And outside the box, which won't be outside the box much longer.
It's less and less outside the box every day.
But it's so much more effective. So much more effective.
And longer lasting.
Yeah.
And that's that's what is essentially good for people.
And we've moved from the spiritual to the physical, by the way, in this conversation. I'd want to be really clear. In terms of science has been doing a lot of research.
Yes.
In terms of anxiety
benefits.
And depression and we would say mental wellness benefits. They've also done some research on the spiritual side as well. So,
without a doubt.
Yeah. And all of this goes back to the 60s and the 50s. Like, we're doing some of the same research now in the last 10 to 20 years that we were doing back in the 50s. I don't know if you're aware of that, but it's kind of interesting.
I love it. It's completely full circle.
It is.
Sometimes I wonder why it takes so long, but maybe that's just a bureaucratic movement.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? No different than going to the DMV or whatever. It's like, God, why does this take so long?
It's the consciousness, I think, of the people. I mean, it's our consciousness that runs this thing, right? And definitely there's always those entities, in this case, governments and so forth, who are in charge. And they definitely can take things away like they did with this particular plant
Substance.
medicine. But it has to be in the minds of the people that's also allowing some of this stuff to take place. And I'm not saying, I don't want anyone to get me wrong, I definitely believe that there is a suppressive force that is always trying to control us. Always trying to control what gets in, what gets out, how we're thinking, what we're doing, how we're socializing, the whole gamut. Mm-hmm. And obviously, they stamped this out for years, for many decades, actually. And I did find it very interesting that a lot of the research that has come about in the last 20 years and has been talked about, let's say, in the last 10 years, was research that they were doing so long ago. Mm-hmm. So long ago, we knew that
not much has changed.
Psilocybin helps with alcohol. Well, back then they called it alcoholism. Now we call it alcohol use disorder. But we knew that back in the 50s.
Right.
We knew this.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the story goes that one of the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous wanted to use psilocybin in the program. Were you aware of that?
I am aware of this, yes. Yeah. And did.
Well, I think he had an experience.
I believe.
And that's why he wanted to bring it into the program, but I don't think it was ever accepted in the program.
No, it's not accepted in the program in any way, but it is known that there was some of that was involved in the birth of the program. You know what I mean?
So that wasn't my understanding. My understanding was kind of there was a board, and they said no, we don't want to go down that road. But the guy knew
absolutely.
That it helped, that it worked.
Yeah, because it helped him.
Right, because it helped him.
It helped him see.
Right.
But that's back then. I'm sure that was a hard sale.
That was a sale that didn't get made.
Yeah, for sure.
It may be a sale that wouldn't get made even today. That's the other part of this. There are still going to be, even when the FDA approves it, even when the psychiatric community gets to utilize it.
Right.
Because I don't know if it'll ever be, just put out there with, nothing, no sanctions, no requirements and so forth in order to
call it recreational.
It will never be recreational. I'm going to say, because obviously the drug companies are going to be involved. But but once that happens, I'm sure that there will still be employers who will not want you to do it. There will still be big corporations who will kind of turn their noses up at it. There will still be a segment of the population where it's still considered fringe, but it is and has become more knowable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We know more than we've ever known before, and we're utilizing it more, and we're utilizing it both therapeutically and spiritually, fortunately.
And what you're also talking about is that it's being judged less.
For sure.
So as a result of it being judged less, when people use it, I feel personally that if one has if one's spirit is alive, wow, life can be the most amazing thing in the whole wide world, and it's the spirit and the physical working together. This the mushroom, the psilocybin, a couple of things happen at the same time. Even when you're in that moment, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, when you feel that electricity moving through you and stuff like that, it is spiritual, it is physical. And when people are listening to us, I definitely want to encourage, it's very important to be open-minded about one's concept, view, belief about the word spirit or spiritual. Right?
In what way?
Right. Well, I mean, just the fact that, we're talking about how people are judging the mushroom less,
Sure.
so it's becoming more mainstream accepted, right? Because as you're talking, right, and as I'm listening, I'm just like, they're just judging it less. You know what I mean? They're just like finally not being so uptight about it. And maybe that's just because they're thinking for themselves and they're going, hey, man, no matter what anyone says, I actually feel that I could benefit from this.
Yeah.
Those are the people that we want. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Those are the people that we want to share whatever we have with them. That's the whole reason why they come to us. Right?
That segment will be the folks who will come, right?
Yeah.
Because they've already said, okay, like maybe they were waiting. Like me, I'll just give you my personal experience. I always had this interest. There was always this interest in...
I remember you telling me about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was mushrooms in particular.
Yeah.
I was never interested in anything else, but I was always interested. Well, peyote, but, I knew that I'd probably never get to unless I found someone who would let me in. But, that's a very closed ceremonial plant. But I was very interested in the mushroom. But because of all the bad press, because of all the stigma, and I grew up at a time where it had been shut down. Like I think 1970 is when they turned all of the research off completely. I think it started 65, but it was complete by 1970. And so there was a lot of there was a lot of airplay on television. There were PSAs on the radio. There was a lot of stuff that the just say no
propaganda.
This was before the just say no, and this was specifically talking about LSD, which by way, I can't say that I remember a specific mushroom commercial, but I definitely remember the PSAs about LSD, about, don't take these things from strangers. It was almost like the razor in the apple. Remember when they talked about razors being put in apples for Halloween? And I don't know if you know
completely.
They never found any razors.
They never found
apples.
anything.
No, they
never found anything.
This was just something that was kind of in the airwaves. Like, don't
and
let
that's
your children...
that force of darkness that you're talking about.
Right.
That is,
scaring parents out of their minds.
Yeah, I called it, propaganda.
It's definitely
and the propaganda comes out in so many different ways. And then if one tends to not think for themselves, then they tend to spread said propaganda.
Right.
And propaganda is almost like a ripple in water, man. You got a nice clear water, drop a little propaganda in there, it goes out, and then it comes back and it stops. You know what I mean? And here we are full circle again. Right? Where people are like, God, man, I'm considering this because you know what? I feel that it's healthy for one to be at a point of despair and desperation because maybe it's that despair and desperation that opens up their mind to trying something new, stepping out of the box.
That's it. That may just be it. I mean, I think, they say that our mental wellness is at an all-time worse. Like we're the lowest when it comes to mental wellness markers than ever. And since COVID, we've dropped and nobody knows how to really get us back up. Well, I think psilocybin is definitely psilocybin. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff out there too. There's ketamine that people are using, ayahuasca, which is still very ceremonial, very traditional. But people are also looking at those other substances for the same reason. We're looking for relief And just so happens that the research shows that if you're suffering with depression or anxiety, psilocybin works amazingly. As a matter
It
of
turns
fact,
on a light in you.
psilocybin works 4 times. It's 4 times as effective as antidepressants.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
This is the research.
based on my own personal experience, and I've done my own personal research. You know what I mean? Not that it would hold up with any sort of pill type thing or whatever, but you know what I mean?
Nothing in the brochures or anything. We can't print this.
Yeah, I just imagine my face there. Hey, you know, but like it really does turn a light on inside a person.
Yeah.
And that is the spirit.
Yeah.
Your spirit is your light in you.
Right.
When people are like, you're glowing, or like when you're pregnant,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Right,
You
right.
got that glow,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, and people see that. How do they know it? How do they see it? Because it's in them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the mushroom will help you get back to it.
The glow.
The glow.
The glow. Yeah. Yeah, for
think,
sure.
Think about it. I mean,
It can.
it can. I'm not saying that it will. Okay. I'm just saying that. I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
You're not saying?
I'm just saying, you know, the mind's like a parachute and it only works if it's open.
This is very much
Right?
true. This is true for those people out there, and I was going to address that. So there's a segment of the population who's going to be open to this.
Totally.
Who, because it is now legal in some places,
Yeah.
that they're, and it's being talked about. That's the other thing. It's being talked about in the news. And in magazines. There's books written about it. There's documentaries all over Netflix. Because your neighbors know something, and maybe at a cocktail party someone will bring it up.
Yep.
All of this is feeding into the idea, oh, this is acceptable.
Yeah.
It is. It's more acceptable. But for those people who still remember from their childhood that it's a drug, it is not a drug. It is a plant.
Right.
It is completely natural. It is picked from the ground. Nothing is added to it. It is a plant. It's a mushroom. It's actually a fungus, but we call it plant medicine.
It's a fruit. It's a fruit of the fungi.
It's a fruit of the fungi.
You know what I mean? It is actually
the body.
it is the fruit of some of the world's oldest stuff in the whole wide world.
Yeah.
You know what I
The
mean?
mycelium.
Right.
Which it's so magical. I mean, when you start looking into it, that's a whole nother show.
Totally.
But we want to talk to those people who continue to kind of doubt it, who, I mean, let's just face it, the programming has been successful. The programming was successful with me.
Oh, and
it
doesn't matter what the subject matter is. It's programming.
It's programming, of course.
You know what I mean? It doesn't
This
matter
is
what.
learned.
Yeah.
This is information that you've accepted, and this is how we all learn. We are all coming
It's part of the
under
discovering process.
this parachute of information. It is.
Well,
It is.
You know what I hear we're kind of encouraging?
What?
Unlearn.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like I totally encourage people to unlearn.
Unlearn.
You know, unlearn. Don't take anything from yesterday into today.
I
And in
agree.
fact, if you really want to learn, do something different. Step outside of your box.
Right.
You know, have an open mind to something that used to be closed to,
Yeah.
like the mushroom.
Like the mushroom.
right?
Or even the near-death experience, or the idea of a meditation practice, or anything that you haven't really looked at, but for whatever reason, you think it's not for you.
And everyone has that in them, I feel. Right? I feel that somebody has whatever inside them that they feel is taboo to touch or to think about or to go near or whatever.
For sure.
You know, I mean,
There's a lot of that.
yeah, you know, so it's like in this particular case, try it with something like psilocybin that could turn your light on inside,
Right.
right? Broaden your perspective of your world inside and outside of you,
Right.
and open up your heart and your eyes to see how colorful the world inside and outside of you can be. Right?
I think
and we'll totally help them do that and explain it and put it in a way that you can take and feel and navigate and surf with on the daily.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
On the daily. It's like, one of the coolest things about mushrooms is
what?
I feel like it takes away from some people the notion or expectation that they have to try so hard to become something. Okay?
Really?
Yeah. Like, I feel like if people take a trip, right? Mm-hmm. And a significant one.
Right.
Right?
Right. What we call a macro dose.
Correct. Mm-hmm. So, and it's kind of like being on a roller coaster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You sit down, you buckle in, and you go for a ride, and then you're set back down, and you come back, and you're like, whoa, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to do that again.
Now, see, I say just the opposite to people. My experience, I hear what you're saying.
What I mean by again is not necessarily do it again, right? But what I'm saying is like let's take for instance people, they want to let's say lose weight, so they feel that they got to exercise 4 hours a day and
Sure.
sweat. This is not that case. You know what I mean? You can take a macro dose,
right,
and be set for
absolutely.
You can be set for 6 months, 9 months, a year, or longer.
So
everyone is different. Everyone is individual, but it's not like you got to remember to take a pill every day. Or if you don't, you're going to feel it.
You know what?
You're going to feel it every day. That's what I'm saying. You can do it again every day without doing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. In other words, you're talking about almost like a reset, basically. Yeah. So you're no longer over there. You're now operating differently.
You now got a new here.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And oftentimes, back in the day, people would do it, let's say, once a year.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Get a little reset that way.
Yeah.
You don't...
And I hear you almost, and this is interesting because we're going to bounce back and forth, and our conversation is going to bounce back and forth as to...
Like my mic.
Whether...
Did you bump the table?
Whether we're talking about spirituality or we're talking about the physical ailments, if you will.
Yeah.
And, of course, I believe, mind, body, soul, right? It's all kind of connected, and you might be going to have a psilocybin journey because you've been suffering with depression. And what I want to say about that is it definitely seems from the research and from what we've seen is that for depression, it's like
magic.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to
lighten
your depression.
And there's that light again.
It's like that is the magic, I think,
yeah.
Is that for depression, it is a sure thing.
And lighten implies weight because depression is very, very heavy.
Yes, for sure.
You know what I mean? And when one goes through this trance, let's come full circle, because we come full circle on everything.
We go around
everything.
And around and around.
I have to bear in mind, all right, keep it in, keep it in. You know what I mean? But it's like when one goes through this transformation, it's like a revolution of their spirit. It's a revolution of their soul. It's a revolution of their perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
And what it did was it turned that on. It turned on a light, and light moves. It has speed. You know what I mean? And
right.
that's where it eliminates a whole lot in one movement.
Right. Like in one
session.
In one session,
one can come out of it and go, wow.
Yeah.
Oh my.
And and the
That's what I'm
research
talking
shows
about, you know?
and it is.
And
It's
the
like
research
that.
shows that that's what's going on.
It's instantaneous.
You know, because
and it lasts long.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you have something that you can take with you and use on a daily basis. And if that's not totally understood how to do that, that's where we come in.
Right.
Right. And explain all of that and share with all of that.
Not using the mushroom on a daily basis,
No,
by the way. We're talking about one dose.
Yes.
And I think that the research says that after 2 doses with like drug resistant depression. So if it's working with drug resistant depression, meaning no matter what antidepressants you've been on, that you do a journey and you're good, like almost immediately and for months.
Yeah.
We found between 8 to 12 at first, but now they see it going even beyond.
It's
12
like
months.
a reset
It's like 14
inside you.
months. Yeah, it's definitely working with something, right? In terms of the depression. So let's call that the physical. Let's say you have a spiritual, like something mystical happening.
A mystical adventure.
In that same
You know what I mean?
Journey.
Yeah.
That's a gift. This one, not necessarily guaranteed, but for whatever reason, the depression, you lift something that heavy, now you can see further, you can reach further, and maybe
God, you can breathe.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
And that in itself is I would say, a mystical
That
sensation.
can change the world.
Yes.
Think about it.
Changes your world for sure.
Absolutely. And that's how you change the world. You change yourself.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You turn your light on first.
It's it was the all of this outcome, out of these outcomes for depression and anxiety that got me really excited about psilocybin.
Totally.
The spiritual aspect I've always been interested in, and you're so right. I found myself reaching for it when things were really rough, right? When something horrible had happened in life and, I was just having a hard time, like, working it out, wrapping my mind around it. And it was big.
Yeah.
And that's the story where I told you I asked a friend for it. I got it, and it stayed in my medicine cabinet so long that when I went to move from the house, it was like powder.
Yeah.
Because again, the stigma, I just didn't want to do it. I wanted to do it, but I didn't want to do it. Yeah. And I know that there's a lot of people out there right now who want to do this, who want to experience it. And I would encourage everyone who is having the idea that perhaps they should, that they just push through it, especially if they're suffering with depression.
Yeah.
Especially if you're suffering with depression, you owe it to yourself to just
give it a try.
Just do it. It's for me, it's a just do it.
Yeah.
Because it's that, even though the spiritual, the mystical is not guaranteed, the depression alleviation is almost 100% guaranteed.
And naturally, it will bear fruit.
Naturally.
Right? And that fruit is that fruit bearing, I feel, occurs in one spirit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know what
sure.
I mean? It's like for those folks who touched the feeling of being out of depression.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like biting into the sweetest fruit ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in that, they're touching a light.
I'd imagine it
Right?
would have to be.
And all they got to do is say, I'm willing. I'm now honest with myself. Right? I'm honest with myself of where I'm at. I know I don't want to be there.
Right.
I'm open-minded to explore. And you throw a little bit of willingness in there, and man,
Make it happen.
You've got the ingredients to bear fruit.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure. There's a lot of people who are concerned about the price, the pricing of this, because where it's legal, it comes with therapy.
Sure.
So it's not just
as it should.
Finding mushrooms.
Yeah.
It comes, well, I'll tell you that let's say 30 years ago. For you, maybe it wasn't that long. But let's just say 30 years ago when you
was. It was.
When you would take mushrooms, then you're kind of on your own, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you bring in a therapist or a guide or a shaman.
Uh-huh.
But you bring in someone who's going to help you make sense of whatever it is that you're experiencing.
Totally.
Right?
Uh-huh.
It does impact it. Mm-hmm. And it's going to
that alone should provide security, comfort. You know what I mean? It's like I know from my own personal experience, I've been researching this for a very long time. Right? So it's kind of like when someone says, "Hey, will you take me through this?"
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You mean like a trip sitter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like what we do. You know what I mean? When someone says, "Hey," or even in just talking about it, mm-hmm. It's like we've done that research. We've done that. We've both done our own research in different levels. Absolutely. But it's the same kind of thing. It's like for the people who are just changing their mind right now, right. Or for the people who are just becoming open-minded to it, it's like, wow, yeah. I feel that combination, of people to sit with you and then people to help you understand, your movement, your experience, and how that can be taken and you can surf with that in a daily basis.
Well, so I'm kind of not committed in that way. I think, yes, doing this with a therapist, and when this starts to catch on, there will be, for like in Oregon right now. So Oregon is the only state in America where psilocybin therapy is legal. Mm-hmm. It's the only state where psilocybin is legal. Mm-hmm. And it's only legal if you do it in a state-sanctioned clinic.
A controlled environment.
Yeah, in a controlled environment. Yeah. That is sanctioned. That is sanctioned by
which helps people go, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah, maybe.
In some ways, you know what I mean?
I've heard a lot of people who are willing to do it and who do it, let's just face it, who might be microdosing and so forth, say that it's too expensive. And it is very expensive. Mm-hmm. It's very expensive, Michael. It is thousands of dollars to go into these centers and do a journey. There is, they should have therapy with them, right? Yeah. There should be therapy both before and after the dosed session. However, that makes it pretty expensive. And there are people who are concerned. Like if you're suffering with depression and you're just trying to pay your bills every month, you do not have an extra couple $1,000s to go and sit in on a sanctioned therapeutic session. Mm-hmm. So there has to be some answer. And I'm not necessarily here because, we operate in a state, we live in a state where this is not legal. Yep. We do not have a license to practice here in the state of Florida. We do not practice here in the state of Florida. Yep. But
yet, hopefully,
definitely.
Yeah.
But there is some concern. There is some concern, and I think that it is a reasonable concern. And the question becomes, how are those people helped? Again, think about all the people who are suffering with depression right now at this moment, who can't wait for 2 years before the FDA says, okay, let's put our stamp on it, which I think this is going to happen. And then who knows how the states are going to roll it out, even after that happens.
Or how long that will take.
Or how long it will take. Yep. And so what are their options? What are their options? And I want to go into this really quickly because we only do psilocybin. That's the only psychedelic that we work with. And we only work with it in places where right now
it can
is
be worked
legal
with.
to work with it. And so, but for those people who are out there who are suffering at this time, psilocybin is the thing that has been, it is the plant medicine that has been shown to have the results that it gets with depression.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there are some other things. There is ayahuasca, there is ketamine, which is legal,
Mm-hmm.
which you can get online. Actually, you can buy ketamine online. It doesn't last as long. You're not going to get the 8 to 12 months of alleviation of symptoms, but it's something. It takes a little longer to work. It's not necessarily immediate effects.
Yeah.
But I think it's like a day or two.
Yeah.
And then it lasts for I believe 4 to 6 weeks. Not as great as psilocybin, but it's something. And again, it is something that you can take right now, get it online, and without the necessary regulation of the government, which of course means in a therapeutic clinic, in a sanctioned clinic, and it's going to work for you. So I suggest for people out there to at least do that. The other thing that you can do is find yourself some mushrooms. I've said it before, and I'm just going to say it again. Find yourself some mushrooms. Find yourself a guide. Find yourself these things in a legal state, of course, but get your hands on what you need in order to be well.
And most importantly, wow, that was man, you came around into a heavy scene right there.
Well,
you know what I mean? God, man, most importantly, just take time for you. Take time to figure out you. Take time to ask yourself in this moment, where am I? Emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. Where am I?
Yeah.
Do I know where I want to go? Do I know what it takes to get there?
Yeah.
Right? And you know what?
And you do. We know what it takes to get there, right? So
everything inside you will talk to you if you're still enough with it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I love how, you said, hey, do what you got to do for you, especially especially with the folks that have depression, because those people tend to be a little silent about it. You know what I mean? The people with anxiety, you can see it.
Yeah, well, there's young people who don't even know they're suffering from depression.
Right.
Because it's their reality.
Right.
Right.
And so just take time to, it's take time to check in with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Take time to check in with you and take time to do what is best for you. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
That's most important. And now that we have this information, I think you can't tell me there's something out there that's going to help me, but then go, well, wait a minute, wait, we're not quite ready for you yet. We're not ready for you to be whole yet.
We're not ready for you to wake up.
We're not ready to help you.
It's too many people yet.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So one of the things that I've been thinking about there has to be some alternatives to this all or nothing kind of model that's been set up.
Mm-hmm,
and so,
or it's like all or nothing, or can and cannot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you alluded to that. What if people basically can't afford to come to us?
Right.
You know what I mean? Or can't afford to go somewhere else, right? What are their options?
Yeah, exactly. They can't afford it. They don't have the way to travel. Right now, we're only doing retreats because, of course, we have to operate in a legal capacity, of course. And
but mushrooms grow everywhere. I'm sure they grow. I'm sure, it's they grow everywhere at some point or time in the year. The conditions the climatic conditions will be ideal to produce some fruit, man. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, God, think about it. You know, I've had a very similar mindset for a long time. Like, I mean, if more people did more mushrooms, the world may be a lot happier place. It may be shinier. It may be lighter.
I guarantee
there would be more laughter.
When you come out of a journey,
You
right?
know?
When you come out of a trip. I don't like to use trip, but trip and journey are
An
interchangeable
adventure.
for me.
Yeah.
I think that's what everybody says.
Yeah.
Everybody
They're
says
lighter.
that. Like, oh, we need to give this to the world, and then it'll be beautiful.
Yeah. And
Which-
that's what they said in the very beginning. I mean, that's what it was like in, you know, primarily in that movement.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
that's what they were trying to do,
was-
which is why it was like, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Because, I mean, truth be told, if more people, you know, that doesn't mean that it's for everyone. Everything is not for everyone. That's
Right.
one of the most beautiful things about, you know, what we encourage with the Way Hum is that you discover what is for you.
Absolutely.
Right? It just so happens to be that in this case, it's a mushroom. It's been around forever. Chances are it's going to be for you if you give it a try. Chances are you'll really discover that if you believe in it and if you feel it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
If you have that mindset that it's like, wow, I'm open to this and this is going to work. I'm not a gambling person.
But you bet on
I
it, right?
I may wager on that. Yeah, because, you know, I mean, and that's where that thing comes from. Seeing is believing.
Yeah.
Experiencing is feeling.
Yeah. Well,
You know?
I'm going to say there is something called integration therapy.
Yes,
And we do offer that.
Yes, we do.
And that is that when you get your hands on some mushrooms, if you'd like to talk with someone about the experience that you've had,
Yay! Yep.
that we can accommodate you on. Just go to the website, which is thehummind.com, and you can choose to schedule integration therapy, which means you're not coming to us. You're not going to see us at the retreat, but you can, or we can help you integrate your experience.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
keep that in mind. And even if you don't do that, I still encourage you, if you're out there and this is something that you know is for you, if you can travel, definitely come see us. We'd love for you to come see us. Mm-hmm. Or if you're closer to Oregon, go to Oregon. And if you cannot do any of those things, do what is necessary to help yourself.
Yeah. With a smile and enthusiasm.
Absolutely. With a smile and enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. And on that note, we are going to, we're going to say goodbye.
Sounds
this
good.
This is our first
video
on
cast.
Air.
Yeah.
Hello. Our first one. We're I am so grateful. I'm going to speak for me and then I'll let you speak for you. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to share information and to do what it is that we do together. Mm-hmm. And I'm grateful for the audience. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Absolutely. I too am super excited. You know, like I've been looking at you this whole time, you know, wondering if I should look in the camera and stuff like that. But like in the utmost sincerity and seriousness, I'm incredibly grateful for what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and the lives that we get to touch along the way, you know, because this is something that it's beneficial and sharing is caring.
Definitely.
You know?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
audience, for joining us today. We're so happy that you were here. And if you have any questions, be sure to go to our website. So there's a website for the podcast. It's thewayhum.com.
HUM.
Always HUM. And also the business is thehummind.com. HUMMIND.com. And hopefully you will join us here again, over and over and over again. We'll be here. Thank you.
Thank you.